Hello there, welcome back to the channel, the Network of Viking. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Cisco Secure Access from the scratch. So if you're someone who doesn't know what an SSE solution is, what we're talking about when we talk about the Cisco Secure Access, this video is going to help you a lot. And not just that, we're going to talk about, okay, let me just sum it up like this. We're going to talk about what Cisco Secure Access is, what SSE solutions are, why would I prefer Cisco Secure Access over other SSE solutions? I'm going to give you a couple of reasons for that. And apart from that, we're going to talk about the architectural overview, where we're going to talk about the different components of the Cisco Secure Access. And apart from that, we're also going to take a look at the dashboard UI. So if you watched my previous videos on Cisco Secure Access, you'll find that the UI has changed a lot when you compare that video to this video, because you find that new features have been added. So I'd highly recommend going ahead and checking that video, as well as then afterwards comparing that video to this video and other videos that I've made on Cisco Secure Access. Before we begin, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and most importantly, subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Let's begin.
All right, so these are the topics that we're going to cover in today's video, and we are going to spend quite a lot of time on the last two. All right, so what is the Cisco Secure Access? Well, the Cisco Secure Access is a converged cloud security SSE solution. We're going to talk about SSE solution after this, which is grounded in zero trust and provides seamless, transparent, and secure access from anything to anywhere. Let's just break it down a little bit now. So, what do we mean when we say converged cloud security? When we say converged cloud security, we're looking at an integrated approach that combines multiple security services and tools that provide you comprehensive protection. Right? We're going to talk about SSE solution after this. What is zero trust? With zero trust, we're assuming that threats can exist both inside and outside the network. In simple terms, it's a security principle that requires strict identity verification and access controls. So, what is seamless and transparent? Seamless relates to the user experience, just making sure that it's smooth, uninterrupted, consistent, and so on. When you talk about transparent, this means that the user is unaware of the complexities. That's it. We're taking care of everything. The user doesn't need to know about what's really going on behind the scenes. Yeah. So making it easy and clear for the user. Okay, so what is anything to anywhere? This is something that is really amazing that makes it extremely powerful. When you say from anything to anywhere, it indicates the capability of providing secure connectivity for any device or user. So when you say anything, we're not just looking at users like a human being, right? We can have devices as well that are trying to connect to the resources. For example, an IoT device or something like that, right? So any device or user that's trying to access resources across various locations or environments, right? So anywhere in the world. So from anything to literally anywhere.
Now, SSE stands for Security Service Edge. An SSE solution is a cloud-based security architecture that provides secure access to your private applications, your SaaS applications, as well as the internet, right? There have to be these four components for any solution to be known as an SSE solution. And what are these four components? We're looking at Ztna, we're looking at SWG, we're looking at Casb, and we're looking at Firewall as a Service. Now, Casb stands for Cloud Access Security Brokers, Ztna stands for Zero Trust Network Access, SWG stands for Secure Web Gateway, and then you have FWaaS, which is Firewall as a Service. Now, let's keep these four core components in our minds. When we go ahead and check out the components of the Cisco Secure Access, you'll understand that Cisco Secure Access brings a lot to the table. Not just these four components, there are many other components, and it has a lot of power.
Now, why would you want to choose Cisco Secure Access over any other SSE solution out there? Again, a disclaimer that it's just for educational purposes, whatever I say in this video, yeah? So let's talk about Zero Trust Access. That's the first point. So with Cisco, you have the advanced ZTA technology in place, which uses efficient protocols like MASC and QUIC. Now, that ensures two major things. One, hypergranular control, and two, you got improved performance. Now, with Cisco Secure Access, you have a single agent. Now, a lot of the SSD solutions out there, you'll find that per component, you'll have different agents to be installed, different consoles to take care of. With Cisco Secure Access, that's not the case. You got a single agent that will take care of a wide range of security functions, right? And then you have a single console. With this, you got everything sitting in one place. You got a unified console, a single policy engine for securing the internet, SaaS, and private applications. And finally, artificial intelligence with AI and machine learning, you'll find that Cisco enhances threat detection and protection. You'll understand more about it when I show you the components of the Cisco Secure Access. So this is what your client is going to look like. As you can see, everything is in one single place. You want to take care of the VPN. This is where you do it from. You want to take care of ZTA. You can do it from here. Now, this is AMP. If you want to take care of SWG umbrella, this is where you take care of it. So everything comes in one single place. You don't have to install multiple agents to take care of it. Yeah. And if you want to unleash more power, check more things, logs, and other things, you can just click on this gear icon, and you'll be able to, make other configuration changes as well for VPN, for example. If you want to enroll or unenroll for ZTA, you can do it from there, and a bunch of more stuff from there. Um, Also, from this same gear icon, if you click on it, you'll be also getting an option to get the Dart bundle from there. I've shown how to get the Dart bundle in a separate video. I'd highly recommend checking that out as well. So let's jump into the components now. All right, so taking a look at what Cisco Secure Access has to offer, we got the core SSE components that we talked about before. We got the secure web gateway, we got the Casb and DLP, we got Ztna, and we got firewall as a service and IPS. And not just that, Cisco Secure Access offers you way more than that. We got DNS security, multi-mode DLP, we got advanced malware protection that we saw in the client as well, right? So we got Sandbox, Telos Threat Intelligence, we got VPN as a service, digital experience monitoring, and when we talk about DEM, we talk about Thousand Eyes as well. We talk about remote browser isolation. I've made separate videos already on VPN as a service, DEM, RBI. I've made on ZTNA as well already. I'm planning to make more videos on all these components as well. Now let's talk about the architecture overview of the Cisco Secure Access. In order to understand this better, we've divided into three parts. You got the users on the left-hand side, how in the middle, and the applications that you want to access on the right-hand side. So basically the users want to go ahead and access the applications, and the middle part takes care of how those users would be able to connect to the applications. So let's take a look at the left-hand side first. On the left-hand side, we have the managed endpoints. So managed endpoints are those endpoints that have the Cisco Secure client installed, and they use the Cisco Secure client in order to go ahead and connect to the Cisco Secure access. Now, managed endpoints are known as when you try to connect using the managed endpoints, that access is a client-based access, right? When you have the unmanaged endpoints, this means that the Cisco Secure client is not installed on the endpoint, and you're trying to connect using a browser, in this case, to the Cisco Secure Access. You're trying to connect to your application on the right hand side using a browser, right? This is also known as browser based access or clientless access. All right. And apart from that, you can have users sitting behind an IPsec tunnel, users connecting to the Cisco Secure Access using RAVPN, and so on. In that case, you got the tunnel configured that connects to the Cisco Secure Access. We're going to talk about all these flows in the upcoming slides. Now, let's take a look at the right-hand side. You got the private application section right here, and then you got the internet section right here, right? So the users that are sitting on the left-hand side will try to connect to either your internet applications or internet destinations, and then they may also try to access the private applications that could be sitting in the public-private cloud or your DC Colo branch, right? And in order to access the private applications, the connection could be made using, between the Cisco Secure Access and the private applications. The connection Could be either based on app connectors or an IPsec tunnel that connects to your private applications. You can have both an app connector as well as an IPsec tunnel configured that gives you redundancy. However, if you have both configured, app connector will get the preference. Let's talk about the middle part now. So we find in all the cases, authentication is going to happen, and then you have the MFA and the posture check. That is optional. Both these parts are optional. However, let me just tell you that with posture checks, you got different posture checks for Ztna, that is client-based, and you got different posture checks for the unmanaged, that is the browser-based, and you got different postures for posture checks for VPN, RAVPN. I've discussed in detail about RAVPN posture checking. I would highly recommend going ahead and checking that video as well. All right, so then we reach out to the firewall, and if the destination in this case is the private application, then the traffic reaches the perimeter device, and from there, using an app connector, it reaches out to the private application or an IPsec tunnel to reach out to the private application. In the same way, if your private application is on a DC Colo branch, public private cloud, and so on. I'm going to talk about app connectors in a separate video in detail. I have, however, already talked about IPsec tunnels in a separate video. I'd highly recommend checking that video as well. So let's say the destination in this case is the internet. The first things are going to be the same, but then after the firewall, the connection is going to go over to this part where it goes through the DNS, SWG, DLP, and Casb. Once the traffic goes through that, it goes ahead and then it reaches out to the perimeter device again and goes out to the internet. As simple as that. But we're going to talk about this in more detail in the upcoming slides. So, yeah, let's go ahead. All right, so let's talk about the secure private access where VPN. As mentioned before, you can have users connecting to the Cisco Secure Access using RAVPN. So once the connection is made, to Cisco Secure Access from the endpoint, it goes through authentication, as mentioned before, MFA device posture check, it goes ahead to the services router, and then connects to the firewall. And mind you, we're talking about private access, right? As mentioned before, when we're talking about private access, it's not going to go to this one, right? So in this case, we're not going to see this touching DNS, SWG, DLP, CASB. In this case, it's going to go ahead to this perimeter device, and then from there, either using an IPsec tunnel or an app connector, it's going to go ahead and connect to your private application. As simple as that, right? Because obviously, I didn't go through the thorough details of it. I'm possibly going to create a separate video for that, but this is just to give you an overview of what it looks like. All right, so let's talk about secure private access, but this time we're going to be using client-based ZTNA, not VPN, right? So with this ZTNA, what happens, another actually advantage of a ZTNA over VPN, in VPN, you connect to the gateway once you're connected to the gateway. If you fail the posture, you will not be able to connect to any of the applications on this side, right? Because you won't be able to connect to the RAVPN headend. In ZTNA, that's not the case. The posture is checked per private app access that you try. So let's say you fail the posture for app 1 when you're trying to connect to app 1, but when you're trying to connect to app 2, if you don't fail the posture, you will still be able to connect. So that's a good part, right? So let me just clear it. All right, so let's say the user is enrolled in ZTNA and then he goes ahead and tries to connect to app1.demo.com. All right, so the connection is made to the Cisco Secure Access. It connects to the ZTNA proxy. A quick tunnel is made per application, as I mentioned before. So for app1.demo.com, a tunnel is made which connects to the ZTNA proxy, and the same steps that I mentioned before, authentication takes place. And then these two are optional. Again, as I mentioned before, device posturing is different in ZTNA compared to RAVPN or browser-based. Again, I've made a video on that. Please go ahead and check it out in this playlist. And it goes ahead and connects to the services router, and from there it reaches the firewall. And because we're talking about secure private access, the traffic flows over to the perimeter device, and from there, using an app connector or a tunnel, it reaches the private application without any problems, right? Now, another way to access your private applications is using the clientless access. So you can secure your private access when you do not have a VPN and you do not have a client as well. This is used for unmanaged devices. And in this case, you're using a browser to go ahead and connect to your private applications. We're talking about browser access, and therefore we're talking about HTTP, HTTPS. So you go ahead and make this clientless a connection to the Cisco Secure Access. In there, the same things happen, like the authentication, MFA support, posturing, and mind you, posturing is different in this case compared to the client-based ZTNA and the RAVPN. It reaches the ZTNA proxy, from there the services router, and then the firewall, and then the perimeter device. From there, you got the backhaul VPN, the IPsec tunnel, or the app connector to go ahead and connect to your private applications. You can have clientless access as well as client-based access configured for your private applications. You can for the same private app, like you saw in the previous one, app1.demo.com, for example. You can have app1.demo.com reachable via client-based access as well as clientless access. I've talked about it in a separate video. I would highly recommend going ahead and checking that out as well, in which I've shown you how to configure it as well from the UI. So let's proceed. All right, so let's take a look at the dashboard UI. If you watched my previous video on the dashboard UI overview, you'll find that this looks way different than that one. If you click on these three horizontal lines on the left-hand side, you'll see the UI changes a little bit. I prefer this over that one. However, sometimes when I'm in the mood, I just go for this one. Anyways, it's your choice. Doesn't make that much of a difference, but yeah, I mean, it gives you a good feel and yeah, whatever. So right now we're at home, and then after that you got the option for experience insights. We didn't have the option of endpoint tests before, but we have that added as well. So you can click on management, configure account, or endpoint tests, and you got different things to configure in these three places. For example, if you click on configure account, so you're gonna land on this page where you got all this stuff in here, right? And then you got endpoint tests, in which you'll be able to see the tests that you have configured, the default tests, and so on, running at the bottom that you can see, right? Right here. Zero endpoint tests, choose which type of test you want to add, and you can add new tests in here as well. I've talked about this in detail in a separate video. You can go ahead and check that out as well. And after that, we got the option for management as well, where you see the devices, the latency on them, jitter, and so on, their health basically. So this is where you see all that information. Right now, I've not set it up. That's why. Uh, I mean, I had made some changes. That's why we don't see it here. You see the health status shows us offline. Anyways, we're going to talk about it. I have actually already done that, but I'm going to make a new video on that because a couple of steps have changed. So therefore, I want to cover that as well in that video. Okay, with the experience insights done, let's talk about connect with network connections. You have a few options in there. So when you click on network connections, you get the option to configure connector groups or your network tunnel groups. So if I click on network tunnel groups, you'll find that you'll be able to configure the network tunnel groups right here, right? Okay, so two of these options. And then with Connect, you have the options for users and groups where you configure, where you also have a new option again added as well. So we just so you got users, you got groups, and then this is a new option that I'm going to cover in a separate video, organizational units. Then you have end user connectivity, where you go ahead and deal with your ZTNA, VPN, and internet security as well. If you want to add bypasses, you can add it from there. And then you got DNS forwarders. If you know what virtual appliances are, if you have dealt with Umbrella before, then it should be a piece of cake for you to understand DNS forwarders. And with the DNS forwarders section, you can on each VA you can go ahead and manage the secure access site for the VA, reset the password for the VA, upgrade, delete, and so on. Right? So you got the resources where you can add internal networks, registered networks, where you add the public IP addresses. You got the roaming devices, which you will see the devices pop up there automatically when the device goes ahead and connects to your SWG. So you got SGTs, which are used with ICE, and then you got SD-WAN service VPN IDs, Internet and SaaS resources, in which you have quite a few options, destination lists, content categories, and so on. You got private resources. Whenever you're dealing with private resources, you got to define your private resource right here in this section. I've talked about it in great detail in a separate video. You got AAA servers right here, and that's pretty much it. If it's secure, and this is where your policies set the access policy, the unified design. This is what makes it extremely awesome. You got everything in one place, easy to manage, easy to control. And on the right hand side, you see this option to add a rule where you can add internet-based rules or private access rules as well. So if I click on that, you'll see private access, internet access. I've talked about it in a separate video. You got all these tests in here. You can give this rule a name, mention, hey, I want this to be an internet-based access or private access. Action, what action do you want to take? You want to allow, you want to block, you want to warn, or you want to isolate. You have an option to isolate as well, which is used for your RBI, remote browser isolation. You got the sources. Hey, I want to connect from, let's say, test DMZ. I want to have any resource, or I want to have the source as like a user. Let's say myself, Asana Boss, is the source, and the destination is the network Viking. When the user tries to connect to the network, Viking, anything for that matter, right? Any, or let's say Facebook, or a cafe in Kashmir, or you got IP addresses and so on. So with the security section, you got the other pieces of config, like which security profile, which security web profile you've configured, the encryption enabled or not, and this lock right here that you see it for tenant control and so on. A ton of stuff when you go ahead and click on these three dots, click on edit and so on. Why am I going through this very quickly is because I've already talked about it in great detail in a separate video, and you'll find that video in the same playlist as well. So hits tells you, how many requests came in that hit a specific rule. In this case, you see everything is hitting this one, which is any. So nothing will go down because this is any, right? And then you got the status. If it's enabled, you'll see it like this with a blue color. And if it's disabled, you'll see it something like this, right? Okay, that's pretty much it for this section. All right, so let's talk about the monitor. No, actually, in Secure itself, you got DLP, you got endpoint posture profiles, where you can configure the posture profiles. As I talked about before, just want to quickly show you this one. So in a zero trust connection posture, as you can see right here, you got zero trust connection and a VPN connection. Hey, I did talk about a third one as well, because in zero trust connection, you got two posture profiles in here. So if I just go ahead and click on this, you'll find that it's client based and browser based. And then you have the VPN based endpoint posture profiles, right? So you can configure it as you want. And these are different from one another, right? You got IPS profiles, security profiles, which are basically your web profiles, right? Threat categories, you got notification pages. You can make custom notification pages as well from there. You got the DND list, extremely important. You got the certificates, so you can come to this section, click on it, and go ahead and upload certificates, or even download the Cisco Secure Access Root certificate from here. You got the data classification after that, so all that awesomeness inside Secure. And then you got Monitor. In the Monitor, you have the option to check out different logs. So you got remote access logs, activity search. One of the main sections in the logs where you'll land every single time when you're troubleshooting something, almost every single time. Yeah. Security activity, total request, activity volume, blah, blah, blah. All of that. You can have scheduled reports as well, as you can see right here. Admin audit logs, again, very important. And the DLP logs right here, right? You got the admin section where you have the accounts section where you'll have the users. You can change the time zone from there as well. You got authentication in which the Casb parts are mentioned. You got the API keys for API authentication and so on, log management, subscriptions, and integrations. So let me do this because I see the video is already longer than expected. I'm going to talk about all of this and I'm going to cover the dashboard UI again in a separate video. If you're new to the channel, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting as well. That helps a lot. And please do, yes, share with others as well. So I'll see you in the next video. If you have any feedback, anything, comments, please. Thank you. You have a great time ahead. Goodbye.